We need a plan to take full control. The war is starting to get out of hand.
We must continue to access the void to truly bring balance. The power within is enough to reset our world and allow the Temple of the Eye to open its doors to us again. The Overseers cannot stop us. But what of the void creatures? We have reports of strange shadows wreaking havoc on our villages. We believe this is the hive that calls itself Obsitan Subisus. This is what our recruits are for, to distract and sacrifice.
But how are we going to get full buy-in?
Easy. We just need to give them a purpose. Obsitan Subisus is pure chaos as far as we know. And this hive cannot avoid its obsession for chaos based on all of our experiments. All we need to do is unleash it onto the other dimensions, and its inhabitants of our choosing will do our bidding. Perfect. We can call them the Order of Light and make them believe we are their gods.
Do not underestimate these worlds and the creatures within. The chaos of the revolution might lead to rebellions if they distrust us as they watch their loved ones die. We need to trick them further.
Then we could use the Dream Priests. They are some of the more powerful creatures we have encountered because of how they enter even our minds and dreams. We need to use their powers.
Enough!
Who dares disturb us?
It is I, Ivian.
The one who denigrates his own elder blood by falling in love with the Dream Priest? Of course you would speak out.
We are the elders, meant to uphold the balance, and yet we live through the chaos of the void, of Obsitan Subisus, and of this war with the Overseers.
What are we to do? The Overseer's plan is weak and threatens the balance of everything.
Who says? Who even knows which plan is better? You all make false assumptions not because of a fear of chaos, but from an obsession with power. We must protect everyone from chaos, equally. No groups or beings are better than others.
What you say is blasphemy. Either give up the Dream Priest and help us with our plan, or suffer the consequences.
I would rather die than be party to the chaos of the elders.
Silence! From this day forward, you are banished from the Master Realm. We've had enough of you. Seconded. Confirmed. And your Dream Priest lover will help us, or be eliminated.
Never underestimate the power of a Dream Priest. It will be your undoing.
The Dream Priest was here. She is escaping.
So be it. Let there be an order of light.
Welcome to the quest for the Green Ball! The War Within! We are now just 6 weeks away from the playoffs, and two divisions are starting to be non-races, with huge leads and tiebreakers on the side of the first place sides in both the Dream and Power divisions. However, the wildcard race is very muddled, and the Shadow division looks to be in a little bit of flux with a 3-team race starting to brew, which could be very exciting. But things can change at any moment, any week. No one's clinched anything yet. No one's celebrating too soon here. And we're in the midst of a 2-week stretch with non-divisional play, with one of the Shadow Division members in the title race up against a member of the Power Division that might be thinking about 2026 already. The last featured the Battle of Thor, with Thor-lacher taking on low-key Lebowski Thor at Tenebrae Woods. Thor-lacher used the power of Patrick Mahomes on Monday night to pull out a 102.86 to 68.3 win. Mahomes finished with 299 passing yards, 30 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks, but it didn't matter in the end. Derrick Henry also came to life, 71 yards and 2 scores. Michael Pittman had a nice week, 95 yards and a score. The Colts defense added 4 sacks and a pick. The player to watch, Courtland Sutton, had a great TD catch called back due to a flag, or he would have had a really nice score. He did end up with 67 yards, so not totally horrible. On the other side, Quinshon Judkins had 17 total yards and left the game early with a shoulder injury, proving to be a huge dud and another casualty on a team that already lost Joe Burrow earlier this season and has really never been able to use Joe Mixon. Troy Franklin led Lebowski Thor with 89 yards and 2 scores, however, and Aronde Gadsden had 77 yards and a touchdown. This is a nice waiver pickup. Chase McLaughlin collected 3 50-yard field goals for a big game. In the end, it was another disappointing week for the 2-time champion. Falls to 1-7 overall, most likely needing to win out to have any shot at all at the playoffs. But it's looking pretty bleak at this moment. Thor-lacher moves to 5-3, one of those teams in the heart of the race in the Shadow Division. Treat 'em and Yeet 'em ended the historical undefeated start by Golden Ticket by earning a 131.78 to 105.18 victory. Golden Ticket's 7-0 start is still tied with Green Acres' 7-0 start that they had in 2017. The longest a team started undefeated. Now 2 teams. But 6-2 Treat 'em and Yeet 'em is now hot on their trail for the #1 overall seed this season, just a game back. And now they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. Bo Nix is a big reason for this with his 4 touchdown passes. Jonathan Taylor was a maniac once again, looking like a Green Bowl MVP candidate. 174 yards and 3 touchdowns, including an 80-yard score. And then there's Tucker Kraft, the tight end, dropping 143 yards and 2 scores. Those 3 players combined for 94.48 points. That's crazy. Kayshon Boutte and T. Higgins also scored to pad that win. Very good compliments there. Daniel Jones did have 3 touchdowns to help ease the loss of Lamar Jackson for another week. Dallas Goedert had 2 scores to help Golden Ticket. 121 yards by J.K. Dobbins also helped, as well as a combined 27 points from kicker Tyler Luke and the Chargers defense. In the end, Golden Ticket just really took on the best team of the week, even with a respectable score over 100 points, proving how difficult it is to go undefeated and also showcasing how legendary Thor-lacher's 13-1 end to the season. 13 wins in a row to finish 13-1. How impressive that was just a few years ago. They won 15 in a row to win the Green Bowl. It's not easy to do. The Clash at Demonhead defeated Green Acres 110.06 to 103.44 in a Shadow vs. Dream Division crossover. James Cook was the star here. 216 rushing yards, 2 total touchdowns. Nearly put up 40 points because of that 5-point bonus with over 200 rushing yards. Just a beast performance. DK Metcalf also scored. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdowns. Travis Kelce added 99 yards and a touchdown on Monday night. Green Acres did make this into a game on Monday night. Those Kelce points were needed for the Clash of Demonhead. Rashee Rice finished with 105 yards and a score, and Kareem Hunt collected 2 touchdowns. And then you had the Chiefs defense finishing with 2 sacks and 2 interceptions, also holding Washington to just 7 points. Of course, the main star for Green Acres was Breece Hall with his 147 yards and 2 scores. However, he added a 3rd score on a 4-yard touchdown pass. Very unlikely, leading the Jets to their first win of the season, too. The Clash at Demonhead moves to 5-3 with the win, while Green Acres falls to 3-5 despite a very good week. The Fighting Mooses are right back in the hunt for the playoffs with a very low-scoring 76.16 to 71.62 win over the Stellar Bitches. Jalen Hurts went off, 4 touchdowns. Hunter Henry also scored. That's always going to help when your tight end reaches the end zone. Brandon McManus and Jalen Warren did just enough on Sunday night. The Stellar Bitches had a week to forget, of course. Several down games by guys that were expected to do a lot better. Also, Cam Scadaboo lost with an ankle injury. That might be the end of Scadaboo for the rest of the season. We will have to see. Roma Dunze did have 114 yards, and the Bills' defense added 7 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery. And then you had Cameron Dicker kicking 3 field goals. Just wasn't enough. Both teams are now 3-5 overall. Remember, the Titans held off the Overcomers in a 110.88 to 97.32 win. Drake May continued to shine with 3 touchdowns. Kamani Vidal had 127 yards and a score. And Tyler Algier also reached the end zone as a bye-week replacement for Jamar Gibbs. George Kittle found the end zone, too, coming back from that goose egg he put up last week. Teteroa McMillan added 99 yards, and the Patriots' defense had a sack, 2 picks, and a safety. Of course, Saquon Barkley led the Overcomers. His best game all season is what she's been wanting since taking him number 1 overall. 174 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 50-plus yard score. There was a hamstring injury scare in there, but we'll see what happens. Josh Allen had 3 touchdowns, including a 50-plus yard score, and Ladd McConkey also reached the end zone. Woody Marks had 111 yards, too. The Overcomers fall to 3-5 overall as they just didn't do enough. Remember, the Titans is back to 500 at 4-4, and right in the heart of the wild card race. Lastly, my These Stars Are Right squad held off defending champion Pounders in a 120.32 to 98.52 win. The Buccaneers defense proved to be huge. 5 sacks, 2 picks, 2 fumble recoveries, and a touchdown, allowing just 3 points. Kaimi Fairbairn added 4 field goals, and Jackson Dart had 2 touchdowns as an injury replacement. DeAndre Swift, Devon Achane, Stephon Diggs, and Jordan Addison all reached the end zone as touchdowns were aplenty in this one. Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown pass to Scary Terry on Monday night. It just wasn't enough. Pounders did have some other nice games, though. Javonte Williams had 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs also reached the end zone. Harold Fannin and Chuba Hubbard scored as well. Just couldn't get enough to take out the Stars Are Right, scoring over 120 points. Of course, my team is now 6-2 overall, and Pounders falls to 2-6. And the Stars Are Right team now holds a 3-game lead in the Dream Division with an 80-plus points advantage over Green Acres, and of course that 3-0 divisional record. The Overcomers, Green Acres, and the Fighting Mooses are tied record-wise, so we'll see what happens there as this continues to shake out. Treatum and Yeatum lead the Shadow Division by a game with an 80-plus point advantage over the Clash at Demonhead and an almost 108-point advantage over Thor-lacher. But Thor-lacher and the Clash at Demonhead are clearly still keeping pace. They're also the top teams in the wild card race right now, so this division is certainly looking like the strongest. Golden Ticket still leads Remember the Titans by 3 games in the Power Division with about a 60-point advantage and that 3-0 divisional record tiebreaker at the moment. Remember the Titans is also currently the last team in the playoffs right now with a 1-game lead over 4 different teams, including the Stellar Bitches. And of course, we will be getting a huge wildcard implication match in the next as the Clash at Demonhead takes on the Fighting Mooses at Arsa, Sráidbhaile. Before we dive into this one, let's see how everyone is doing in the Master Realm.
We have made it to Arsa Sráidbhaile. It means ancient village, a relic of when the Master Realm was at the beginning of our evolution in a world of 10 distinct races.
I am worried about the others. I feel like they should have made it out of the woods by now.
I have faith that Mario and Franklin know how to avoid the elders.
Is this still Elder territory? It looks different.
Technically, no, it isn't. but it is within their territory and they travel it so often it might as well be Elder territory.
What exactly is this place? The ruins seem so old. Is this even older than the ruins of Undalshala you showed us?
Yes, much older. This place is probably the oldest remaining remnant of the past in the Master Realm. So old, we do not even have a written history of this place.
Don't you guys believe in history books?
Franklin! So glad to see you. Have you seen Mario and the League members?
They will be with us shortly. We had to escape not just from trees, but from something else that came out of the ground.
I was worried about this. The Elders have done this before, creating creatures out of things in the ground. Dirt, rocks, bones, pretty much anything. But they would not have left you alone. How did you escape?
The things seemed to go toward the mountain range in the distance.
Then we are not alone in our quest. Others must be here that made the Elders summon those creatures.
But why would the creatures leave us alone?
I can answer that. I was able to enter the creatures' minds.
You did what? Amazing. You dream priests can do things even we cannot explain.
The thoughts, pain and anguish. The bones were elders and overseers killed because they rebelled against the war, cursed to never be in peace.
That is not surprising.
No, but what is surprising is that they mentioned another group in the Order of Light. The Travelers.
So they have come here.
That's not all. They also know why they were sent to kill the Travelers. They doubt the Elders because they warn them of Obsitan Zubisus' army that he's building on a different planet here in the Master Realm. The Shadows are getting ready to take the Temple of the Eye.
And they will no doubt go to speak to the Overseers and warn them. Good, good. This will work in our favor.
But what of these creatures? Won't they come after us if the travelers escape?
We are already in danger. Remember that the scavengers are still out there. They will find us again soon. Instead of worrying, let's look ahead to the next great matchup in the league. Can the Clash at Demonhead continue to push for the playoffs in a competitive division? Will the Fighting Mooses save their season after a tough first half start in their rookie campaign?
Amazing how you can turn anxiety into excitement. Is that an overseer power?
I think it is best we keep moving through these ancient ruins.
Agreed. We only have 3 more areas to go through before we reach the courtyard of the Temple of the Eye.
We are previewing these games a little earlier than normal at the time of recording, so not all the normal metrics and projections are available during these previews, and I don't know who was picked up on waivers, which obviously could change projections as well. But the Fighting Mooses will obviously be making moves. Jalen Hurts is on a bye, and he has Jordan Love on the bench, who is the most likely replacement. Kenneth Walker is back from a bye and can be added back to the running back or flex positions, which is what's expected. And Nico Collins might be back from concussion. If not, another move would need to be made. Hunter Henry has been doing well, so we will see if he remains in the lineup. Chris Olave came to life a few weeks ago. Not sure who can replace him at the moment when you look at this team, unless somebody's picked up. The Broncos defense will also be key for the Fighting Mooses, of course. The Clash at Demonhead has a choice at quarterback between Trevor Lawrence and Aaron Rodgers, and between the Bears and Lions defenses. We'll see where she goes there. But Christian McCaffrey is a clear advantage at running back, and DK Metcalf and Romeo Doubs might be advantages at wide receiver should Collins be out on the other side. Zay Flowers might also come to life with Lamar Jackson expected to be back to throw his way, so we'll see there. But there are 2 players I'm going to watch closely, both running backs for the Fighting Mooses. I'm looking at running back Ramondre Stevenson in the flex at the moment. Stevenson isn't lighting it up. He's not lighting up that stat sheet. 279 yards rushing, 169 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns. And last week was tough against a good Browns defense. He finished with just 34 rushing yards and 15 receiving yards. But he has put up double-digit fantasy performances in 3 weeks this season. Miami, Buffalo, Tennessee were the matches. He had his best rushing game 2 weeks ago at 88 yards against the Titans. and he had his best receiving game with 88 yards against Miami in week 2. The Fighting Mooses need Stevenson to have one of those types of games here, and not like the one last week, obviously, to have a chance against a pretty stacked team like the Clash at Demonhead. The good news is that the Falcons' defense is ranked just 22nd against running backs. They allowed 185 total yards and 2 receiving scores to Devon Achane and Ollie Gordon last week. They allowed 201 total yards and 2 rushing scores to Christian McCaffrey the week before that. So recency bias might have Stevenson in line for a decent score here. If Stevenson can reach the end zone and, it helps him score over 10 points, it'll be a huge boost for the Fighting Mooses' chances just to get that extra production somewhere. Obviously, they'll need more than that, but it could help. But if Stevenson has another dud like last week, those missed points could be the nail in the coffin. Now, for the Clash at Demonhead, I have to break down James Cook from Buffalo after his big game last week. He's having a nice season, especially with those yards last week, 753 rushing yards, 89 receiving yards, 7 total touchdowns. It is surprising the lack of receiving and TD yards with Ray Davis getting those looks, but sometimes that's how things go. Last week, James Cook had over 200 rushing yards and padded season totals in a big way, and it was the second time he scored 2 touchdowns. He also reached the end zone twice in week 2 against the Jets. He has been up and down, over 100 yards on the ground 4 times, less than 50 yards twice. And next up, he has to go up against a stout Kansas City defense that are really coming into their own in the last several weeks. They held Bill from Washington to just 25 yards on 9 carries this past week. They also held Austin Genty to 21 yards on 6 carries in week 7. You might blame game script with how out of hand that got, but still. They held Jamar Gibbs to 65 yards on 17 carries. They held Marion Hampton to 48 yards on 15 carries way back in week 1. Now, Justice Hill did have 76 yards on a score, and Cam Scadaboo had 60 yards on a score against the Chiefs this season. Saquon Barkley had the best game against them, 88 yards on the ground, plus a touchdown. Still, no 100-yard games against the Chiefs on the ground by any one player this season. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if Cook can score a touchdown and put up numbers closer to Barkley or Hill this week that they did against the Chiefs, that could be enough for the Clash of Demonhead to just kind of pad this victory and put it out, just end it. But if Cook is held to numbers worse, like Gibbs had, or even worse than that, that may be an opening for the Fighting Mooses to go for that upset. Now, again, the Fighting Mooses are going to need a lot of points elsewhere, but I feel like these are the 2 players that might turn the tides. So regardless of what happens, this should be a fun matchup. With it, it kind of has a playoff feel. Both of these teams just a few games apart in the wild card race. The Clash of Demonhead going for division titles still. It should be a good one. And now there's going to be some other rock star matchups coming up this week too. So let's break those down. 1-7 low-key Lebowski Thor takes on 3-5 the Overcomers in what seems like a must-win for both squads. The Overcomers don't want to fall too far behind in the wild card race, and Lebowski Thor needs a win just to stay alive and not tie for the worst league start through 9 weeks in our history. Josh Allen versus whoever Lebowski Thor throws out there at quarterback is big because Allen has a tough matchup on paper, but one he's scored a lot in during past matches. I mean, I feel like Josh Allen has lit up the Chiefs in the past, no matter how good their defense is. Saquon Barkley in a bye also hurts the Overcomers, though he might have been out anyway after a hamstring scare last week. So the Overcomers are going to need Xavier Worthy and Matt McConkey to do well, and we'll hope that Bill and or other streamer running backs on our team score touchdowns. Lebowski Thor does have a good matchup for his Chargers players, but the Packers defense might go off against Carolina on the other side. 3-5 Green Acres takes on 2-6 Pounders in another matchup. Green Acres is in a bye-week hell and will need to pick up a quarterback and a tight end. He will be leaning on Justin Jefferson and Rashee Rice. Pounders needs a tight end and a defense. He will be leaning on Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, and CeeDee Lamb. 6-2 Treat 'em and Eat 'em could be taking over the number 1 overall seed if things go our way in a matchup against 3-5 the Stellar Bitches. A win coupled with a golden ticket loss would give her the top seed through 9 weeks, and she gets her Lions stars back with the Sun God Jared Goff and David Montgomery. It will be interesting if she goes back to Goff or sticks with Bo Nix after this past week. Of course, Jonathan Taylor is a beast, so you don't really need to say much about that. The Stellar Bitches need to make some tweaks with Scadaboo's injury and A.J. Brown on a bye. She'll be leaning on Dak Prescott, Bijan Robinson, and Rome Odunze. 5-3 Thor-lacher faces 4-4 Remember the Titans in a massive contest. Patrick Mahomes versus Drake May, Jamar Gibbs versus Derrick Henry, and Jackson Smith and Jigba versus Cortland Sutton look to be key areas. Don't sleep on the George Kittle versus Tyler Warren battle at tight end. Lastly, we might have another Green Bowl preview, or at least a semifinal preview, as 7-1 Golden Ticket takes on my 6-2 The Stars Are Right team. And of course, the Tree of 90 Rivalry Award is on the line. Lamar Jackson is expected back, so it is interesting to see if Golden Ticket sticks with Daniel Jones or goes back to Jackson. Jaden Daniels might be back for The Stars Are Right, or they will need to go with a replacement at quarterback. Puka Nacua might be back, which is a big boost at wide receiver, especially with Jamar Chase on the other side. DeAndre Swift and Devon Achane versus J.K. Dobbins and Rico Dowdle could be big. And don't sleep on the Rams versus Chargers defense battle, which could be massive, and what is expected to be a high-scoring match. We will be transitioning to the alternating divisional, non-divisional match part of the schedule starting next week. So this week is big for wildcard implications, with some division titles possibly getting clinched as early as after next week's matches, depending on the results. But that's all speculative. We will see how this week plays out with so many matchups that give it a little bit of a playoff feel. I mean, I feel like these matchups are juicy this week. And that's the show for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again next week to continue our story as we get closer and closer to the Temple of the Eye and to the end of our regular season. Until next time, salut. And before you go, check out the updated power rankings.